Hi, I'm Alana from Upcycling NZ, and this is my first time putting my face on video. Hi everybody, I'm Alana from Those are the crafts that we'll do today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 54 years old. Hi everybody, I'm Alana from Upcycling NZ. Welcome to my channel. I am 55 years old. Hi, so it's the next day and I've had a bit of a think overnight while I was in bed, and I thought, hey Alana, you need to get serious about this. Your YouTube channel means a lot to you and you've put a lot of work into it, so you need to make a real effort. Even though I have a morbid fear of being on camera, I did make a commitment that when I reached 100,000 views on my channel, I would do an in-person video. I need to take it seriously because I love crafting and this is what I really want to do, so I need to make a real effort. What do you think? Do you think I'd get more views if I put my face on YouTube? I know I'm not very good at it, but I'm sure I would improve. Because it's not actually about me, it's about you guys, and it's about what you want to watch and what interests you. So I'd love to hear your feedback to see what you think. I have to give a huge thank you to you guys for supporting my channel. I love you guys and thank you so much for supporting me, because I wouldn't be here without you. So hi my regular subscribers, and if you're new to my channel, welcome. So glad you joined me. So I've been working on craft room storage, and I started with these shoe boxes. I just decoupaged these with the largest pieces of craft paper I could find. And to attach the little labels, I put a piece of wood on the inside so that the screws wouldn't go all the way through. These stack really nicely, going from largest to smallest, and I can add to the stack in the future. So I thought I'd do the same thing and create a stack with some of my tins. This one's an antique tin. It's not valuable though, and I love the design on the top. So I've sprayed it with a Rust-Oleum clear coat, and I'm going to paint that just like I have the other two. I don't want my tins damaging the ones beneath it, so I've put some black foam yoga mat on the bottom of that tin, and I'll cut some more out for the bottom of the top tin. I'm just pressing it down to imprint the circle onto my piece, and then I can cut it out. I'm not too worried about the colour that it is, because the black will sort of look like a shadow between the tins once they're stacked. I'll just lay down some old wallpaper. I got a roll of this for $1 from a thrift shop, and I've been using it for months and months and months. No need for fancy table protection. Now I'm just going to take some wood glue and I'll apply that to my tins and glue those foam pieces in. You can see I'm being very generous with the glue. There's a lot of ridges on this tin, so I want to make sure it's going to stick and stick well. The other one has a flatter surface, so I probably won't need as much glue for that. I'll put both of these aside and they can dry, and then I'll start work on the bigger tin. Before I painted this large tin, I put a round of cardboard and some macrame cord around the top. Then I just painted the lid and the base in these beautiful colours, which I'll tell you about. So last week I posted a video where I designed these chalk paint colours. Now these three were made with talcum powder and house paint, and they've turned out to be very effective chalk paints. These ones were existing chalk paint colours, and I just made some custom colours that I would find more usable. So check that video out, it'll be linked down below. Now I've given a name to all of these colours, and they're in honour of my top 8 YouTube subscribers. One of my best friends, and I also have an auntie with the same name. Colour number 1, Michelle. Number 2, I've called Suda. Now Suda has her own YouTube channel. She's a resin artist, and you'll find her at Artist Resin. Thank you, Suda, for supporting me. Lynn is my number 1 supporter on YouTube. She's also a friend of mine, and she wears the most beautiful clothes and always looks really decked out when she goes out with the girls. So I've called this one Linen White because she loves wearing white and she looks great in it. Colour number 4 is Kristen. Thanks for your support, Kristen. I think that's a beautiful colour and I thought your name was beautiful to go on it. Kristen's also a resin artist and you can check her out at APO Creations with a K. Number 5 I've called Fran Green. That's a play on her name. Thank you for supporting me, Fran. Number 6 I've just called Paige because it's just a beautiful name. Number 7 is my girl Natalie. Thank you, Nat, for all your support. Love hearing comments from you and I think that's a beautiful colour and suits your name. And for Elaine, colour number 8. Elaine is a beautiful name, but I think she will appreciate the name I've given it, which is Mary Rose. And it just suits the colour down to the ground. So that's my paint colour range. So let's get back to the crafting. The paint is going to chip off around the rim there where the lid goes. But I'm going to sand that back once I've painted it so that the lid goes on nicely. Now I'll take some masking tape and add stripes to the side of the tin. I'll start with a wide stripe and then I'm going to create a pin stripe in between each wide stripe and I'll work my way all the way around it. I just had to tie my hair up for this bit because I get paint in my hair otherwise. I'll be painting my stripes in 2 colours. One's a metallic gold and the other is my number 3 homemade chalk paint, Linen White. And I'm using a little paint dauber, a little sponge on the end of a brush. And I'll just take a little bit of the paint, I don't want too much of it on there. Just realised you couldn't see anything. I'll take a little bit on there and I'm going to do the narrower stripe on each of my taped edges. And I'm not too worried if some of the paint shows through. Just want a gentle sort of mottled colour on there. And I'll just do that to all of them. Once the gold's completed, I'll move on to putting the linen white in the wider strips. And same rules apply. I'm just going to offload some of the paint and then start to apply it on my areas where the big stripes are. This chalk paint performs so well and I've made it out of salvaged house paint, so it cost me next to nothing. The coverage is great. Now I can remove the masking tape. I really love that muted dark rose colour that the Mary Rose is giving this. Now I'm going to take that beautiful Kristen colour and it's the same colour as the lid. And I found this little detail stamp that has a symmetrical design on it. And I'll put that on a carrier sheet. Now I'm going to lay some of that Kristen paint colour out on a piece of glass and spread it out nice and smooth. Then I can take my stamp and it will lift up a layer of paint and I'll be able to stamp using it like a stamp pad, and you'll get one nice vivid stamp each time you pick up the paint. So I'm just putting a vertical stripe down the middle of my white stripes. I think this tin is giving off that old world charm now with those little details. For the lid I'm going to use the linen white paint again. And I got these little background stencils from the Temu website and they were pretty cheap. I'm just going through them all and I'm really happy with the designs that are in it. And I've chosen that sort of rose or peony looking one and I stuck to that in the end, but there's some great stencils in here. I decided I'd go 2 tones, so I'm using some of the Fran Green in this as well. Fran told me that was her favourite colour out of that colour palette. So I'm using one of my little daubing sponge brushes again and I've offloaded most of the paint A really foolproof way of using stencils is to just apply paint very lightly, not going all the way to the edges and not doing a solid stencil. And it just gives a lovely faded out look, and it's far easier to match your pattern up and blend the edges. It helps to hide any number of errors, and it already looks distressed. Then by adding another colour to it, and if you don't go across the whole stencil, just pick certain areas, it also helps to hide any number of mistakes you might have made, and it has a very beautiful effect. So then I went and had some lunch, and I thought I'd put a transfer on the top of this, and I fussy cut this stencil out. These ones are quite difficult to use because the carrier sheet is extremely sticky, so if you fussy cut them they tend to work a bit better. So I start to apply this transfer, and about here I started realising, I didn't allow that stencil paint to dry properly. It's dry to the touch, but it's not cured properly. And I could tell as soon as I tried to lift it that there was going to be a problem, and it lifted up all of the stencil paint instead. So I do have a backup plan, but I'm going to try and save the stencil, so I'm spraying the top with some Rust-Oleum clear coat that will seal that paint in, and I'll see if I can still save that transfer. But no, I could feel when I was trying to lay the transfer down that it wasn't going to be sticking how it should. So we'll scrap that idea. I was left with a little bit of the transfer on the top, but that's alright because my backup plan will cover that up. So to fix it, I'm taking this beautiful scrapbooking paper and I'm going to fussy cut out these peonies or peonies flowers, and I can manipulate that picture as I'm cutting it so that I can get the shape and size that I want. I actually prefer the bigger size now that I've done it this way. And the trick for fussy cutting is you hold the scissors steady and move the picture, and you'll find that a lot easier. So that's going to look beautiful on there. I'm just going to decoupage that on. So I'll take some Mod Podge. And I'm putting half of the glue on, then I'll apply it to the lid. And that'll just help me to hold it in place while I add the rest of the glue. You'll notice I'm using a little plastic spatula to push out all of the air bubbles. Then once I had it all flat, I put a layer of Mod Podge all over the top. Once that was dry, I took some clear wax, and I'm using Feast & Watson furniture wax, and I apply it with a shaving brush. And I'll apply that all over the surface of this tin. The chalk paint needs to be sealed, and unless you're using a spray sealer, clear wax is a great option for this. It soaks into the paint and hardens it. Next, I'm taking some sandpaper and I'm just removing the high points around the rim where that lid goes on so that it will go on nice and smoothly. Now I'm going to go in with some antiquing wax, and this is my favourite part because the amount of age that it adds to your projects is quite phenomenal. And I'm just going to apply that reasonably heavily to the top and bottom rims and to the edges of the lid. I'm using a little sponge dauber for this again, and you can add the clear wax before or after your antiquing wax. Both ways it helps you to control the amount of antiquing wax when you buff it off. In general terms, leave a bit of that wax to soak into the paint for at least 10 minutes and then buff the rest off. I think this looks so much better now. What do you think? So I've just got to add one more touch to this tin, and I'm going to take some of the gold metallic paint. It's a Folk Art product, and I'm just going to rub some on my finger and go all the way around that macrame cord, creating highlights and bringing out the texture in it. Now it looks like moulding. So that's the base for my tin stack finished. Now I'm just going through those same transfers, and I'll show you how these are supposed to work when your paint is fully cured. This tin's painted in the colour Michelle, and it's been drying for a couple of days. I'm using a transfer on this lid because it had a raised design on the top of the tin, and this will help to hide it. So despite that being there, this transfer went on just fine. I'm taking care when I'm peeling back that all of that transfer is down, otherwise I just lay it back down and continue to rub. And then I'm burnishing it with the backing sheet just to make sure that it's really adhered down flat. These are the shiny transfers that you get from Temu. They're harder to use than the matte finish ones, so bear that in mind when you're purchasing them. Now I'm just going to take some random stamps with some French advertising, and my ink pad's almost out of ink. So I'm just going to apply some randomly and sort of lay it all around the surface of the tin, just so I take away some of that newness and create a little faded sort of washed out look. This is not a stays-on ink either, so I expect to lose some of those images when I do my waxing on this tin. Next I'm applying some antiquing wax, and I'm doing it the other way around this time, and I'll apply my clear wax afterwards. The crafts I'm doing today serve a purpose because I've got no more room left in my craft cupboard. Mostly I have my craft supplies lying around in full view because I want them handy and easy to get to. So this way I can have them on display and they'll still be easy to get to. I'll likely also do another video doing my actual craft wall, hence why I've moved my table over to the clean wall in my house. I have some ideas about how I'm going to store all my paintbrushes and pens and pencils, etc. So that's my top tin finished. I love it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Next I'm going to move on to this antique tin, and I got this when it was old already and I've had it at least 29 years. I'll paint the base in the colour Natalie. This is actually my favourite tin because the lid has some beautiful embossing on it, and the lid pushes into the inside of the tin instead of the outside. So I'll do the lid in the colour Page, and this is a grey with a beautiful green tinge to it. I've got excellent coverage with this paint, but I'm going to give it a second half coat. You might remember that I sprayed this with a Rust-Oleum clear coat because the lid was rusty, and I just want to make sure that I really seal that rust in. I'm using white wax by Folk Art to give this tin a slightly different look, and I'm just applying that with a paintbrush because I want a lot of that wax down in those details. I'm applying it in sections and buffing most of the wax off as I go, and you can see that those details are really starting to pop. Next I'm going to add some antiquing wax as well, and I'm just going to apply that to the very edges and the centre of this tin top. This is going to add a really aged and patina look to this piece. This is already sealed now, but I will add another layer of clear wax because I find it just smooths everything out. I'm loving this so much. Look at that beautiful patina. For the base I'm going to use the colour Fran Green and add a bit of detail with another one of these stencils. And I'm so sorry about this filming. Most of it was off camera, but this is the effect I was going for. I love it. I'll add antiquing wax, and I'm going to go quite heavy on this one because it's a dark colour. And I'm getting right into that crevice down at the bottom edge there. I'll go a bit lighter on the top, and once I've got enough of that on, I'm going to use the clear wax to feather off the harsh edge of that antiquing wax by rubbing it through the middle quite vigorously. I'll pop a wallpaper liner in the centre there because the bottom's a bit manky, and buff off any excess wax once that paint's absorbed it. And that's my middle tin done. Now I can fill up my tins with my craft supplies. I've got glues and powders and glitters in this one. I've got crochet doilies and lace in this one. And the little one was just the right size for my temporary tattoos. Now I think I can add another 3 more tins to this stack in between each of these if I just find the right size tins. In my shoe boxes I've got tissue paper and serviettes. all my stamps, and paint pens, specialty scissors and washi tape in the last one. And I'll be able to add some larger boxes beneath these and maybe a couple of smaller ones on top if I want to add to that stack. Remember that these are all recycled items, even the paint. Well, that's it from me for this week, so I hope you enjoyed that little project. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. Goodbye for now from beautiful New Zealand.